Houston, we have a problem. Damian Lillard drops 71 on the Rockets, completely torches them. 13 3-pointers, one away from the all-time record. New career high from Dame. New team high for the Blazers. What did you guys think of that performance?
It just further solidifies what we've known for a while. Damian Lillard is the best Blazer of all time. He's definitely the best Blazer that I've ever had the privilege of watching. And I know he hasn't won a title yet, but he's the best Blazer of all time. And he just continues to prove it. I mean, his name just keeps getting mentioned with Wilt and names like that. The scoring is unbelievable. And I mean, it was he needed to be drug tested. What more can you say? He had to be blood draw drug tested as soon as the game was over, just to prove that he's still a human being at 32.
There's so many different ways to describe the game because Corey Jez, Blazers analytics
The
guru,
Jez bomb.
said that this was the most efficient 70-point game of all time, right? So you take a look at that. Donovan Mitchell's 71-point game this year took overtime. And Donovan Mitchell got to the line a lot more. And I'm not going to say Donovan Mitchell's wasn't impressive at all, because obviously it was. Donovan almost had a triple-double. But Dame did it in like 10 less minutes. Come on, man. And it was the most efficient 70-point game ever. There was another statistic that showed that the distance of Dame's shots was 420 feet. Nice, right? Rip City, am I right? 420 feet. That's the longest average shot distance in, not average, total shot distance in history since they started tracking the data. Wow. Come on. So it's not just like he's getting to the rim like Wilt was when Wilt scored 100. He's shooting from way deep and super efficient. I mean, who cares if it's against the Rockets that are bad? Let's see every other player drop that many points against the Rockets. Crazy, crazy game.
And he had 3 or 4 more that just as easily could have gone through. I mean, you can't nitpick because you're not going to make every one of them, but some of those were close. He was just probably a total of 6 inches away from like an 85 piece,
80 was, literally 80 was on the table. There was a point in the game where I said he literally could go to Kobe's 81. He really could have.
Yeah. But not to take anything away from 71. It was a very impressive 71. It came in a win against Houston,
Thank
sure,
God.
but it was a win.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing more depressing than one of these Herculean efforts from Dame that results in a loss, and that wasn't what happened. We actually needed him. We needed him to get hot again in the fourth quarter. We weren't probably going to win the game if he only scored 50. And so
how sad.
Put the team on his back again and put together one of the most impressive Blazer performances I've ever seen.
I love his mindset. He, in an interview after the game, he said that he should have had 90 with all those shots he missed. He was like upset with himself, frustrated that he didn't hit every shot that he could have. And yeah, he's such a fun person to listen to, interview after a big game like that. He just stays so legitimately humble. There's nothing fake about his humbleness, but with an edge of confidence and that sort of stuff. But then he's just always referring back to the team, just constantly talking about the young guys, how Thibault was able to, at the beginning of that third quarter, he hit a couple threes and had a dunk at the rim and was kind of able to soften up the defense and allow Dame to get back to work. And he's just talking about, how important the final stretch of the season is, trying to get wins and stuff. He's just so not interested in the personal accolade side of it. He said in an interview that I watched last night that he said that I blanked on what I was gonna say.
That's okay. It takes your words away when you watch the game. I mean, the fact that you're right. The fact that he called out Thibault is awesome. Thibault actually had a good game defensively. He's getting a lot of deflections, and imagine this: Thibault becomes even like a 36, 37% 3-point shooter, and he's like the backcourt mate next to Dame. I mean, I know I want Sharp to be that eventually, but wow, like Thibault and Dame's a good combo, and Dame just showed he can provide a backcourt's worth of scoring by himself.
Yeah,
And
we don't need Simons.
I mean,
Well, and
this is
and
not
Just
a
let
dig
Dame
on
take all
Simons.
those threes.
Yeah, I mean,
he didn't only show that last night. I mean, he is on a roll of scoring 40, 38, 71, 60. Going down the list, I mean, going back 2-3 weeks, his averages are just out of control.
Yes, here, listen to this. So Dame over his last 21 games is averaging 39 points per game on 70% true shooting percentage, which true shooting percentage equates threes, higher slightly because they're worth more points, but also more difficult. Yep. And free throws are a part of the equation as well. 70% true shooting percentage as a guard, 39 points per game. 21 games of that.
So I'm gonna harken back to the beginning of the season when we said that we weren't sure how the Blazers were gonna do, but that Damian Lillard was going to put on an MVP caliber season. And I think he's doing that. Unfortunately, he's not really going to be in the top of the conversation because of the fact that we're not at the top of the West. But there's nothing more that he could really do to put himself into that conversation.
Listen, we look at the standings really quick. I've been kind of a depressed Blazer fan just because when you look at the standings and you see right now the Blazers are currently the 12th seed according to the ESPN standings. But you look at the loss column, which is the all-important thing. The Blazers in the loss column have 30 losses. The Clippers, who are all the way up in the 4th seed, have 2 less losses. They have 28 losses. That's home court in the playoffs, 2 losses away. You're 3.5 games back of them officially, but one winning streak and a losing streak from a couple of those teams. I think Phoenix will climb with Durant added, but the rest of those teams, right? Like you could easily sneak into that 5 or 6 seed. Dallas is struggling. The Pelicans have really had an issue with health. They looked good at the beginning of the year, but now they're struggling. Minnesota's been struggling. Golden State doesn't have Curry. They're kind of up and down. They have good games and bad games. Thunder are still young. They play well, but and Utah's played well too. But you could easily sneak into the playoffs. Is it the best move for the future of the team? That's a tougher question to ask, but I mean, Dame can drag him there himself, it looks like.
I think it might even be a little bit better than you had said. Just by a few games, my standings have the Blazers at 11th with 31 losses and the Clippers at 5th with 30 losses. So they're only a game back on 5th and 3 full games back on 4th. So all it takes is a win streak, of one of those teams to slip up a little bit, an injury here or there. And it's like, it almost doesn't even really matter who else is on our team other than Dame at this point. It's like he's going to carry whatever ragtag group of teammates, as far as he can. And I remember what I was going to say earlier. It completely flew out of my head, but I remembered what I was going to say. And then in that interview, he talked about how during the game, like in game, he loves being in those moments, just like attack mode, just basically eating the other defender's lunch, just coming at him, no mercy, all that kind of thing. But then after the game, that's when he said he gets uncomfortable with like holding up the sign, the little card that said 71. He's like, when he went back in the locker room, he was almost like apprehensive about it. He's like, I already knew they wanted me to do that and I didn't even want to do it. It's like he just holds himself to such a high accountability that like doing something like that, he'd rather just be like, move on to the next one. We got the win. Let's move on to the next one. But also with the edge of also like appreciating these moments, because he talked about how the journey is really where he finds the most satisfaction. And that kind of leads into the whole, like, why won't he leave Portland for a championship, for, a place where he has a better chance to win a championship. And he was talking about how everyone in the league is so result oriented. and kind of forgets the process that leads them there. And he said that he wants to win a ring, like he wasn't, making light of winning a championship, but he was saying that he really appreciates like the journey, the moments, all that kind of stuff to get there. And if he can add a ring on top of all those moments, that would just be the ultimate Damian Lillard Blazer moment.
And then they stuck him with a needle and took his blood. But like, I never want to lose sight of the fact that like Damian Lillard has an incredible resume as it is. Like, sure, a championship's great, and I want a championship, but the truth is I mostly want a championship for Dame. Like the whole idea of like moving on and rebuilding so that we can win a championship in like 6 years, I don't really care. That wouldn't even really do that much for me, honestly. Like I want a championship with Damian Lillard. And barring that, I'd rather just watch him play for another 6 or 7 years and then retire and become a coach or whatever he wants to do. Like I'd be fine with that. And so
all championships are not created equal. Like in my opinion, like the Dirk Nowitzki championship means more than just about any LeBron championship. But then the 2016 LeBron championship where he came back from 3-1, that's like the most meaningful championship that anyone's won in like, a long time in my opinion, just because the circumstances, the talent differential, all those kinds of things. The coming back to Cleveland and winning it for Cleveland. There's a lot more to, there different championships mean different things for sure. I feel like there's a few that matter a lot more than some of the other ones, like the Mickey Mouse ring in 2020. Like, who even cares? Should that even count?
And there are just other things that, like you said, there's little things along the journey that Dame can really take a lot of pride in. And the fact that he's going to hold all the major Blazers records, he's going to be the best Blazer of all time. He's meant a lot to the city, and that stuff matters too. So championships
highest
are great.
Paid player.
He's made a lot in the NBA of money. He has made a lot of money, generational wealth that his great grandkids will still be taken care of because of Dame. Pappy Dame.
Hopefully he makes enough and invests enough to be able to buy into Blazers ownership.
Yeah.
To keep the team here and to be like, dude, I want these guys to win. I care about them winning. I'm the face of the franchise. I'll be part of the ownership group and still be the face when I'm gone. That would be great. I think I agree with your overall sentiment, Riley. I want Dame to win a ring more than anything. Obviously, a ring, no matter what, is huge, and I think it would just be awesome no matter what. But the priority, move all the mountains you can to help Dame get the ring here. Because obviously that would mean the most, like what you said, Kirby. I think there's a combo, like you can kind of look at it in different ways. Obviously, Kirby, I really think Kirby, you nailed it. Rings are not built equally, or championships are not built equally. Dame winning it would definitely mean the most. So that's why this offseason, you're seeing what Dame's doing now. Quit messing around. You got to make the swing. Quit waiting for Simons or the young players to grow. Go all in. He hasn't played with the top 30 player in the NBA since his second year in the league. Just give him a chance.
Oh, that's so painful.
My thinking here is if that game against the Rockets, is more of the same what we're going to see, the Blazers do have a tougher schedule coming up. Can they make a playoff push? We've talked about it in the past. That could free up some of the future picks. We might lose a lottery pick this year, or might lose a first-round pick to the Bulls, but it would open up our future picks if we make the playoffs. What I want to ask you guys is this. What do you think? What's your final prediction after this 70-point game, fresh in your mind? You can use that as a frame of reference. What's your final prediction for where the Blazers finish? And my other part of the question is, does Dame finish as the scoring champ? Because I think he's rapidly approaching Joel Embiid right now. So that's my two-parter question.
And go ahead, Kirk.
I was just gonna say, I think that, like I said earlier, it looks to me like he's gonna drag this team kicking and screaming into the playoffs, into the play-in probably. I'd say probably one of those, bottom 7 through 10, somewhere in there is where I see them landing. And as far as the play, I think whatever play-in matchup, it's going to be, a heck of a matchup, pretty close, really, between any of those teams that are going to get in. But I think with Damian Lillard on the team, the Blazers have got as good a shot as anybody to win the play-in game, get into the playoffs, and probably have a tough time against Denver or Memphis. Like I'd rather take Memphis, assuming those are the top two seeds. The Kings are also looming. You never know. Maybe the Suns will get hot. But yeah, I'd rather, out of those teams, I'd probably like the Grizzlies overall, that matchup the best. I think the Nuggets that'd be a tough matchup to handle. Scoring champ, I could see it happening. I mean, he boosted his points per game average by a full point with that
Almost, I think,
game.
yeah.
He was averaging like 31.3, 31.4 before the game. Now he's averaging 32.3, less than a point away from both Doncic and Embiid for points per game. He's going to be right in the mix as long as he stays healthy, as long as he continues to, carry the team, kicking and screaming. He's going to be right in that points mix. And I think they're going to be right in that play-in mix.
Yeah, I think that's pretty realistic. I think that honestly, the two questions you asked are interrelated, because if the Blazers are going to make a serious push into the playoffs, it's going to take Damian Lillard winning the scoring title. And I think he's in a groove right now, and he's kind of hitting the groove at the right time, because at the beginning of the season he wasn't having his best year for the first, I don't know, 20, 25
Injuries.
games. Yeah, he wasn't really feeling great. It just
getting back up to speed after not playing NBA basketball for so many months.
Yeah, we talked about it a few times on here that he wasn't quite in that full MVP Dame mode that we had predicted, but he's there now and he's hitting it maybe at the right time. And so my prediction is that, yes, I think Damian Lillard is going to be the scoring champ, or he's going to be real damn close. And I think we're going to end up at about 42-40. And I think that'll put us right in that 6-7 kind of an area, which I would love if we could get into 6th. I think that would be a better spot for us, because, I mean, that might mean we end up playing the Kings, and the Kings are really looking good, really good. I have to give you a lot of credit there, Colton, but they're inexperienced, about as inexperienced as you can get in a playoff series. And I would take the Blazers odds there. If they're in 7th and they're in that little kind of that playoff play-in scrim, it could be tough. Some tough outs there, but that's my prediction.
Just a quick point about the beginning of the season. Not that he needs any defenders. I'm sure he's fine. But the first 5 games of the season, he averaged 31. And then he had those injury issues and didn't really played like 6 games in November, averaged 22 points, shot 35%, then got healthy and came back. December averaged 29, January averaged 34.5, and so far in February he's averaging 40. So he did he have that month of November where he was kind of injured and not really hitting his shot. But everything other than that, when he's been healthy and on the floor, he's been completely dominant. Like, the most dominant he's ever been in his career by far. It's like almost every game is like that classic Denver game in the playoffs last year, where he had 55 and was just doing everything he could to keep us in that game. It's been like that almost every time he comes out. He's just, has 13 before you can even blink.
It seems like he has 30 at halftime most games. It's like he always was hitting 30 at halftime, and he finally had 41 at halftime. But my thinking is this. I agree with you guys after seeing that. After the Kings game where we rested Dame and Grant, I thought we were shutting it down. It just happened to coincide with the Portland snowstorm, apparently. And so they were, the flight was late, so they rested Damon Grant. I really like, I know we've talked all Dame, a little bit of Thibault. I think Reddish has not been, an excellent world beater, but at least we have size on the
Yeah.
wing. That
Yeah.
I've noticed a difference. Reddish has actually been crashing the boards. That makes a difference. I know that he's not been a crazy world beater, but he's been crashing the boards, and he's had some moments on defense where he gets steals as well. Thibault's been creating some steals.
I like
Both of those
Thibault.
players seem to be for the cost. I know we missed Josh Hart, right? But we also got a first with Reddish. Thibault was a steal, complete steal, first couple second round picks. But you take a look at the rest of the season, it's a tough schedule. I think that you're right. If the Blazers want to make a push, that Dame's going to have to be the scoring champ. And I think it'll come down to like the last week. Joel, Embiid, and Luka both are at 33.1. Dame's at 32.3. Dame keeps up this stretch, maybe has a couple down games here and there, but he'll catch them pretty quick. And he'll be right there, right as the season comes to a close. And then if you look at the playoff matchups, if the Blazers, I think that they'll probably end up in the play-in, and I think they'll probably, unfortunately, be like the 9 spot is kind of where I'm predicting them. I could be wrong. They could maybe go up to the 8 or 7 or so. Here's the thing. If Dame's playing against Denver, he remembers what happened last time.
He's going to average 60.
Jokic pick and roll, he always cooks Denver because it's not a good matchup to guard Dame. I don't want to play Denver. If we do, Dame is going to come out swinging hard, even, harder than, because he remembers what happened that time. Everybody, that playoff game, that would be fun to watch. Ja, that's a tough matchup. You got, Jaren Jackson, I think, would be the difference maker there. People are ranking Ja over Dame. Remember in the beginning of the season, none of us were having any of that. We all said no, Dame was better than Ja. That's another exciting matchup. If they climb all the way up against the Kings have been an offensive juggernaut. That would be tough. Tough. The Kings just scored 176 points in an NBA
That was
game.
crazy.
Wow. I mean, it's hard to play defense, but that's why I was saying earlier in the year about the Kings. They got scores at every position, and that would be really tough for the Blazers.
Bro, Malik Monk, dude, that dude hit every big shot in that game. His highlights were crazy.
Malik Monk, yeah. I know. I was high on him coming out of the draft, but he got drafted to the wasteland of Charlotte, and that kind of. Anyways, obviously you're right though. They are inexperienced, and I think that would be fun. Just the defense would be tough. I think that nobody wants to see Dame in a play-in game. I think that unfortunately the Blazers, if they do make the playoffs, would come up short in a lot of these series we're talking about here. But it would be exciting to watch, in the play-in, Dame. We've seen it before when we made the playoffs in the bubble. They didn't want to play Dame in the play-in, and we made the playoffs. But I think that you're right. The Blazers will definitely make the play-in tournament. I'm predicting them to be lower than kind of what you were saying, Riley, a little bit. And I think they could sneak in. I think if Dame is still on fire, they could win the 1 or 2 games necessary to get into the playoffs. And then after that, we'll see where it goes from there in the offseason, because I don't think that we'll make it through the playoffs.
What's kind of strange is I can't really envision – this is going to sound negative, and it is a little bit, but I can't really envision Simons making a difference. Like, it almost doesn't – in my head, when I picture the Blazers making the play-in tournament, going through the play-in knockout stage, getting into the playoffs, it's like I could see the same result with or without Simons. It's like Dame is just going to carry the group sort of regardless of who's out there with him until he gets, that other legitimate star. It is nice to have some defense and size on the team, like you mentioned with Reddish and Thibault. I've really noticed he looks like maybe the first big guard we've had. And I don't know how many years. I've lost track at this point, but he really does a good job of against, you know, bigger guards. Basically, he's able to knock the ball away,
And
keep
wings.
keep him in front. Yeah, and then also he plays pretty big. Like on offense, he's not, super effective on offense, but when he does make a move, it's like his shot is not as ugly as I thought it was gonna look. It's not that
Out of
bad.
all the players that they say their shot is broken, Thibault's looks perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's not a big issue for. Imagine if he could really start to harness that and turn into a 3-and-D
Jesus.
sort of player, and then with also an ability to get to the cut to the rim, from the weak side and throw it down. He can throw down dunks and stuff. I like Thibault as a potential, backcourt partner for Dame going forward for, hopefully maybe not as a starter the entire time, but through stretches, he could really be effective. And then with and then Eubanks too. He's been playing really well. He took it to Shingun last night. He had a few moments where he really took it to him. I'm like, good for you, Drew. It's nice to see him kind of be the enforcer for the Blazers, because we haven't had one of those guys in a really long time either.
I'm shocked he didn't get tossed. That should have been a flagrant 2, in my opinion.
You think so?
Yeah.
I thought it was a flagrant 1.
How they call it, with how they
Really...
with how they call it now, when you grab a guy by the jersey from the back and pull him down, I'm not gonna say it's not soft, but with how they call it, I thought for sure he was gone.
He didn't really follow through with this pull down, but he definitely did grab him.
It wasn't a basketball play, though.
No, it wasn't.
The one thing I'll say in Drew's defense, I've been in that situation where you're coming down on a guy's back, and it's like, what? I'm just gonna let my full weight crush his spine? Like, no, you gotta try to pull back a little bit. Like, it was a hard foul. I was fine with a flagrant 1. He immediately put his hand out to help him up.
Because he knew he was gonna get wrecked if he didn't.
I just like that he went after him. He wasn't taking any of that crap. Like, that could have been a moment where, Sengun really started to bully the Blazers down low and turn it into an issue. But Eubanks he was fighting every step of the way and not making it easy for him. I like watching that. And then just another quick point of the supporting cast. Nasir Little has looked really good this whole year, and since he's come back from injury, I think his 3-point shot is definitely an added tool that I didn't really see coming from him this year.
Who would have thought about this? Nasir Little is not really playing that great of defense, but been a knockdown shooter all year.
Yeah.
I would have thought it was the other way around.
That's one of the other than falling apart on defense, that's what I'd like to see from Thibault too. He's still young enough. He could develop his offensive game a bit. Maybe that just wasn't the focus where he was before. And, like you were saying before, he's 25. Like, why not, develop that 3-point shot? Lots of guys have developed a 3-point shot in their late 20s and even into their early 30s, And there's nothing wrong with that. And he already can get to the rim. He gets to the rim to block shots all the time. Why not, for lobs and just at the rim plays. So yeah, I have a lot of hope for him. And really the whole supporting cast seems like they've got a lot of development potential. And that's I'm hoping that we do that as well as going out and trying to get another big piece. And for me at this point, no one is precious other than Dame. Like, there's any deal out there, everyone's on the table, I think, except maybe Shaden, just because I think he's a little undervalued right now because of his youth, that I don't think we could get value for him for what he's going to eventually be worth. But just surround Dame.
Depends on the player. I wouldn't probably trade Sharp for someone like Jimmy Butler, only because he's older. And that kind of would be tough. But we talked about Philly really quick. Okay. Hear me out. So starting with Thibault, we have Matisse Thybulle that we acquired from Philadelphia. I read an article, earlier on this offseason, or earlier on after we acquired Thybulle, that was talking about how this offseason he put in a lot of work on his threes. You look over there at the coaching side in Philadelphia, a lot of Philadelphia fans are not happy with Doc Rivers.
No.
Thibault didn't get a lot of minutes, and he's been putting in a lot of work on his threes apparently. And Philadelphia fans were like, "Yep, we knew he was putting in a lot of work." Keep an eye on Philadelphia flaming out in the playoffs. You talked about a big swing. I don't think there'd be a
Harden?
bigger swing bigger than Joel Embiid.
Oh,
This is why. Joel Embiid has not even been as far as Dame in his career. He has not made it out of the second round. If Philadelphia plays someone like Miami bounced them last year. Right now they're matched up with them in the playoffs. You know what I mean? There's rumors that Harden might leave back to Houston because he likes the strip clubs there or whatever Harden likes. If Philly gets bounced early and Harden leaves, I saw Embiid and Dame talking at the All-Star game. There's a picture of it. I saw on Twitter after Dame's 71-point game, people were asking Joel if he saw it and he liked the tweet. Like, just keep an eye on that kind of a thing because that is a player that I would trade Shaedon Sharpe for, Simons, Nurkic, 4 first-round picks. Dame and Embiid is a contender, and that's the kind of move that the Blazers need to make. Go all in on Dame, get him a good teammate, go build the rest of the roster around that. Thibault, get in Embiid's ear, tell him the vibes are good in Portland. Let's see it.
If we could find a way to have like Dame, maybe someone like Thibault, keep Jeremy Grant and get Embiid, I mean that's a squad right there.
Yeah.
I'd give up the rest of the team for that.
Best point guard and best center in the NBA, at least like top 2 in their positions each, probably.
I put Embiid over Jokic, to be honest. Kind of a crazy take. And it's strictly because of defense.
Yeah, that's a tough comparison, but
Jokic is not available though. And also I feel like Jokic, a lot of his ability to be so good is situational. Just like if you put him on the Blazers with Dame, he'd still be incredible, but I don't know if he'd be 3-time MVP. The Nuggets are his team, and that's part of why he's so good.
Yeah, and then on defense, it would be awful. Imagine the Dame and Jokic pick and roll on defense. That would be terrible. But a Dame and Jokic or a Dame and Embiid pick and roll on defense, not as bad at all. Embiid can move.
With Thibault out there helping out.
I'm not saying it's likely, but just keep in mind the Philadelphia has not made it out of the second round. Not once.
Another pie in the eye take from us Blazers fans, desperate for something to happen.
Just one star player come here, please.
In reality, we're gonna end up with Dylan Brooks. He's gonna be our big offseason move. Yeah, I'm calling it here next year.
Brown.
Starting lineup, the top 2 biggest contracts on the Blazers, Damian Lillard and Dylan Brooks. Maybe we can get Steven Adams in there too somewhere.
You just ruined my day.
Sorry guys.
On that downer note.
Yeah, we'll end the podcast there. Just we'll limp out of this one. Thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought about Damian Lillard's historic 71-point performance. See you guys.
Bye.